Welcome back, everybody. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Well, today we're tackling a pretty intriguing topic. Um, it's about this kind of surprising connection between, the Christian idea of resurrection of the flesh and the Spiritist view of reincarnation.
Sounds like a fascinating paradox.
Yeah, and to really get into it, we're turning to our trusty source, Allan Kardec's The Spirits book.
Classic. Which section are we focusing on?
We're diving into Part 4, Chapter 2. All about future joys and sorrows, that sort of thing. The cool thing about Kardec is how he, directly communicated with spirits.
Right, through mediums. It's how he got all those amazing insight.
Exactly. And it's in this section that he just goes straight for it. Asks about this, seemingly impossible connection between resurrection and, reincarnation.
It's a bold move, tackling a topic that seems to contradict the core of Spiritist belief.
Totally. So in questions 1010 and 1011, he flat out asks the spirits, what's the deal? How can the body be resurrected if the soul keeps, reincarnating into new bodies? It's a head-scratcher.
So what did the spirits say?
This is where it gets wild. They actually suggest that the whole resurrection of the flesh thing, as it's been traditionally understood in Christianity, might be, wait for it, an allegory for reincarnation.
Well, whoa, so they're saying the church might have been hinting at reincarnation all along, just using different language.
That's what they're proposing. They argue that this image of a physical body popping out of the grave could actually be a symbolic way to express the soul's ongoing journey, moving through different embodiments.
That definitely throws a wrench into how we usually think about these traditional religious ideas.
For sure. But what's the basis for their interpretation? What kind of evidence do they offer?
Well, a big part of their argument is that if you take the resurrection of the flesh literally, it just doesn't make sense with what we understand about the physical world.
Right.
Our bodies decompose, return to the elements after we die.
They become part of the earth again. The atoms that made up our bodies get, recycled and used in tons of other life forms?
Exactly. From a scientific standpoint, the idea of rounding up all those exact same atoms and putting the body back together just as it was, well, it seems pretty far-fetched.
So the spirits are basically pointing out that a literal physical resurrection is, scientifically impossible?
Yeah, that's a huge part of their argument. They're saying that if we interpret resurrection literally, it goes against all the laws of nature. Matter's always transforming. It doesn't just stay the same. For a literal resurrection to happen, those processes would have to stop. And that's not how things work.
That's a bold statement. But how do they connect this scientific understanding to the whole idea of reincarnation?
They suggest that reincarnation actually provides a much more logical and, coherent explanation for how our spiritual journey continues. If the soul is always evolving, always moving through lifetimes, this whole fixation on a single physical resurrection kind of loses its importance.
So the focus shifts from the physical body to the soul's journey through all these different physical forms.
Exactly. And in this context, the idea of resurrection becomes more about the soul being reborn into a new body, not about rebuilding the old one.
Okay, I'm starting to see the connection here. But what about this Christian idea of a final judgment? Where does that fit into a model where the soul keeps coming back?
That's where things get really interesting. The spirits suggest that this idea of one big judgment day could actually be a metaphor for something much bigger.
Like what?
They're saying it could be a representation of this constant process of judgment that happens throughout the soul's journey, through all its lifetimes, really.
So instead of one giant day of reckoning, it's more like we're always experiencing the consequences of our actions. Like we're shaping our future with every choice we make in every life.
That's exactly the concept. They're suggesting each lifetime is like its own little world of judgment. We experience the natural outcomes of our actions and hopefully learn from the choices we make.
It makes the whole concept of karma fit in a lot better, right?
For sure. The spirits argue that this cycle of action and consequence, it's what drives the soul's evolution. Each life gives us new opportunities to grow, to learn, and ultimately to move towards a deeper understanding of the spiritual world.
It's all pretty fascinating, but if the soul keeps coming back, how does this whole end of time thing make sense? How does that fit into the picture?
That's a fantastic question, and one that really gets to the core of some of the deeper philosophical ideas in the Spirit's teachings. They have some really interesting insights into how we might need to reinterpret the whole concept of the end of time, not as some literal event, but maybe as a symbolic transition.
Okay, now you've really got me hooked. Let's dive into that a bit more.
They're basically saying that maybe instead of thinking of the end of time as like the final stop, we should think of it more as a symbolic kind of thing, a transition to a higher level of existence, spiritually speaking.
So less about like a catastrophic end and more about a shift in what, consciousness?
Exactly. They're talking about moving to a whole different state of being, one that goes beyond how we currently understand time and space.
And this shift isn't necessarily happening at a specific point on our timeline. It's more about like the overall progress humanity makes spiritually.
Yeah, that's the core of their perspective. It's all about spiritual evolution, and not just individually, but for humanity as a whole. And it's not some sudden thing. It's a gradual process, all about growing and, becoming more enlightened.
That's pretty mind-blowing. But how does this symbolic end of time square with the traditional Christian view of a final judgment?
Well, remember, the spirits are saying that this idea of one single judgment day, well, that might be a metaphor too.
Right, right. Judgment's not a one-time event, but something that's happening throughout our soul's journey.
Exactly. What they're suggesting is that this traditional concept of judgment could be a simplified way of understanding how the laws of cause and effect actually work in the spiritual realm.
It's like the universe is one giant feedback loop, and it's constantly reflecting back to us the consequences of our choices.
That's a fantastic way to put it. And in this framework, the end of time would be like the point where the soul has reached such a high level of spiritual maturity that those cycles of action and consequence, they're just not needed anymore.
So it's not actually the end of our existence, it's the end of a particular phase of spiritual development.
Exactly. And this idea actually fits in really well with the Spiritist view of the plurality of worlds, that there are all these inhabited planets out there, and they're all at different stages of spiritual evolution.
So basically, the end of time could be happening on different worlds at different times.
Yeah.
Based on like how far along the souls there have progressed.
You got it. It shows us that spiritual progress isn't like a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. It happens differently for everyone, for every world, based on their specific needs and, well, circumstances.
This really shakes things up, how we usually think about time and judgment. It's a lot to take in.
It definitely is. But it pushes us to think outside the box, right? To consider different ways of understanding these concepts, maybe find interpretations that resonate more with our own experiences and how we see the world.
So much to think about. But I want to shift gears a bit. How does all this relate back to us, to our lives right now? If, as the spirits say, the resurrection of the flesh is really about reincarnation and judgment is an ongoing thing, what does that mean for how we act in this life?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And it brings us to what the Spirit's teachings actually mean for us, practically speaking. If what we do echoes through all our lifetimes, well, that adds a whole new level of responsibility to every single choice we make.
Yeah, it's not just about being good in this life, it's realizing that our actions have consequences that go way beyond our current experience.
You got it. It emphasizes that we're all connected, and the choices we make really can affect the spiritual progress of all humanity.
So even small acts of kindness or cruelty can have an effect on the bigger picture of human consciousness.
That's what the spirits are saying. They're reminding us that we're all threads in this giant tapestry, and every little action we take adds to the overall pattern.
It's a beautiful image, and it means we have a big responsibility to make good choices. Choices that align with our highest hopes for ourselves and for everyone.
Exactly. It's not just about me and how I progress. It's about realizing that we're all in this together, working towards something bigger, a higher level of compassion and understanding.
So embracing reincarnation completely changes how we see our lives, how we make decisions, how we impact the world.
Exactly. It helps us see our lives not as separate stories, but as parts of something much larger, a story that continues far beyond a single lifetime.
A lot to think about for sure. But I think we have time for one last thought before we wrap up. Wow, this deep dive has really taken us down some fascinating paths. We've been exploring how the Spiritists view the resurrection of the flesh, seeing it as a metaphor for reincarnation, and how judgment might not be a one-time event, but a constant process. It definitely makes you rethink things.
Yeah, it challenges us to look beyond just this one lifetime, right? To think about the bigger picture and the impact of our actions.
Absolutely. And that brings up this whole question of responsibility. If our choices have consequences that last through multiple lifetimes, well, what does that say about our duty to, to ourselves and to the future of humanity?
It's a big question. The Spiritist view suggests we're not just on our own individual journeys, but we're all connected, contributing to the collective consciousness of humanity.
So it's not just about me and my progress, we're all in this together, trying to achieve a higher level of understanding, more compassion.
Exactly. And that changes how we think about responsibility. It's not just about personal salvation or enlightenment anymore. It's about recognizing that our actions have ripple effects that go way beyond our own lives.
It's like we become caretakers, not just of our own spiritual growth, but the evolution of all humanity.
That's a powerful way to think about it. It suggests we have a responsibility to make choices that contribute to a better world, a more just world, a more compassionate world, a more enlightened world, and not just for ourselves, but for everyone.
It really makes you stop and think about your everyday choices, doesn't it? Like,
Uh-huh.
is what I'm doing helping to create a more harmonious world, or am I adding to the suffering and disharmony?
Exactly. We start to think about the long-term consequences of what we do, realizing that even seemingly small acts of kindness or unkindness can have a huge impact on the direction humanity takes.
It's like that saying, be the change you want to see in the world. But it takes on a whole new meaning when you consider the possibility of multiple lifetimes.
Absolutely. It suggests that change begins with the choices we make in each moment, in each life. It's about aligning our actions with our highest ideals, striving to live with love, compassion, and wisdom, those qualities we want to see reflected in the world around us.
This has been a truly mind-bending exploration,
Mhm.
and I feel like we've just scratched the surface of this incredibly complex and fascinating topic.
I agree. There's so much more to explore, so much more to uncover. But I hope this deep dive has given everyone some food for thought. Maybe spark some curiosity about how our lives are connected and the impact our choices really have.
Well said. And to our listeners, we encourage you to keep exploring these ideas. Dig deeper into reincarnation, the resurrection, and the nature of judgment. Figure out what resonates with you, what challenges your beliefs, and what inspires you to live a more meaningful and purposeful life. Until next time, keep searching, keep questioning, keep exploring the mysteries of the universe.